So, what we're going to cover today is three topics. One is church records with a focus on Catholic churches. The second is some new things that have happened with Ancestry DNA. And the third is a really good look at the new Randy Majors map site, which I just love. Okay, I'm assuming everybody can hear me fine. If that's not true, somebody should speak up. So let's talk about the Catholic church records. As recently as 5 years ago, it was very hard to get your hands around church records, particularly Catholic church records. I think they had actually made a decision not to share them in a lot of cases. And then it broke loose. And so the New England Historical Society has been doing the Boston Diocese, which is on their website, American Ancestors. The Chicago Diocese is on Family Search. And New York, Baltimore, and Philadelphia are on Find My Past, which you can get at the Family History Center someday when it reopens. And anytime you can do a Google or Wiki search. So what we're going to do is take a little bit of a look at what we have. Many records are not available in an unindexed form, in an index form. They're available only unindexed. But as you might imagine, most church records are indexed by date. Some are even cross-indexed by name. So if you know what parish you're talking about, you actually can get into the church record and start looking for the relevant dates. And once you find a parish that actually works for your family, you may be able to find other people, other events that are of interest in that record base. You can, in fact, contact the diocese directly. I'm going to run over to the San Francisco Archdiocese. So this would be their website, but you can contact them and ask about materials and what might be available. And the worst they can do is tell you that it's hard to find them. But they're increasingly cooperative. Not that they haven't been really before. Okay. So I want to do some examples. And what I will do first is, wrong website. There we go. There it is. I know where it is. Okay, so in Family Search, the way you find a church is you go to their catalog, you put in the location, and then what that gives you is church records. So we're going to do that in Family Search for the city of Richmond in Virginia. Okay, and with luck, my screen sharing is paused. Okay. I seem to have to reshare it to get where I want it to go. I apologize for that. Let's go here and then here. No, that's not what I wanted. I set this up thinking I would be much more in tune with what I needed than I am, apparently. All right, we'll do it this way. Okay, would everybody confirm that they're seeing a Family Search screen at this point? Or somebody confirm that? Okay, we're going to search the catalog. Okay, and the place is Richmond, Virginia. And the way Virginia is set up is there are a whole bunch of independent counties, cities that aren't in a county. So when you do this kind of search, you're going to get a list of all of the records that are available relative to that location. And we're looking here for church records. Okay. And so you can see we have a lot of annals and history of various church records. I picked the Grace Street Presbyterian. So when you bring that up, what that's going to show you is that they have several. These were originally all microfilms that they have put online. And I would call your attention to the fact that in a number of cases, the microfilms had multiple things on them. So if you wanted to look at this particular one, it would be items 3 through 5 on that microfilm. Okay. In the format column, a camera says you can see this, but it's not necessarily indexed. So we're going to look here at the Shackle Hill Church Register. Okay, which we have to, let's see, take almost any place here. I just want to call a page up at semi-random. Okay, so what we turn out to have is the written records of this particular church. And you'll have a lot of information. In this particular case, to go from page to page. Now, in the middle of it, all of a sudden, they have a continuation that's dealing chronologically now. So we have 1845 dates, 1846 dates, okay? And we have events that occurred. John Jones died on 24th December, 1849, okay? So that's the way that this information has been added. And this is like a Quaker church. There's a thing called discharged or where the person leaves the church and goes to another church often. So where possible, they'll say what church they went to. So if you had somebody who you could track to this particular church, you can just scroll through, like in the old days, the way we used to do it, we would just scroll through the records, page after page, looking to see if there's somebody there we recognized. But if so, you might have a great deal of information. Okay, here's Liza Christian, now Mitchell. Okay, so a lot of information in here if you find somebody you're looking for. Okay, now I want to go from here. We're going to go to American Ancestors. Actually, that's not where I want to go. Okay. Marilyn, can you confirm that you're seeing me moving forward with this?
Yes, George, everything's fine. We can see it.
Great. So when you go to American Ancestors, what they did was a deal with the Catholic Archdiocese that said that the records would all be available for free. But the index, which has been constructed by American Ancestors, you have to be a paying member of American Ancestors to get it. So what we have here first is a description. And these links are all, by the way, on our website. So you can just get the link from there. So this talks to you about how to access the records. And we're going to go back and watch a short video there in a minute. But It just gives you a lot of information. And I don't know of anybody else, but it's hard to not have family that came through Boston in some form. So well, that's not what I wanted. Nice try. It should be here. How to browse parish record. There we go.
George, are we supposed to be able to hear the video? Because we're not.
Okay. The answer was, thank you. Let me just do this in real time. I had to do the share screen with the option about sharing the audio.
Massachusetts image only Roman Catholic Arch.
So we'll start over again.
Okay, we just had it there, George.
Our image only collection of sacramental records of the Archdiocese of Boston. Choose Browse Databases on our homepage, AmericanAncestors.org. Type Catholic into the search box and then choose the camera icon next to Massachusetts Image Only Roman Catholic Archdiocese of Boston Records, 1789 to 1900. We are now on the first page of the first volume. Each of the volumes begins with a page like this called Index. We created these to help orient a researcher since your search strategy will change slightly depending on the volume or parish which you are searching. Due to the large number of records in this collection, researchers will have the most luck finding records of interest if they know the parish, rough years, and type of sacramental record for which they are searching. For the parish of Holy Cross, there are 3 separate index volumes which contain alphabetical lists of parishioners by the first letter of their last name only. If we want to zoom in on this chart, you can either use your mouse to scroll or use these buttons here to the left. And so this tells you that people with last names that begin with A can be found on pages 1 through 3.
Okay, so I have a link to this video and you can watch that at your leisure. What I wanted to do really was to bring you to the idea that that there is this information available. Now, this happens to be the free access place. Let's go. These links again are on our website. Okay, so this is, I'm a member, so I can search, and I'm going to search Menard. I'm sorry, I'm going to search Lynn. Okay, this lets me search for the specific location. So I'm looking here for a records in the township of town of Lynn in Massachusetts. So it's going to search that and pull up all of the various records. So these are various places. St. Mary's, okay, which is really one of their major churches. So here would be the St. Mary's baptisms, okay, for Lynn. And let's just take a quick look at that, see what we get. Okay, so what you can see, if I can get this larger, George. Yeah, so this would be the kind of information that would be available. This is a baptism, okay? Who was the sponsor? Where were people born? What are the names of the individuals involved? Notice this is the classic Catholic record that has lots of information available. All I can say is if you've got people who've gone through the Boston area, more and more of these churches are coming online. Okay, so, and they are, as indicated before, chronological. Okay, questions on church records before I go on to family search?
George, this is Pat. I had a question. My
Sure.
relatives all came in through Boston. So if I go to the website for the club or something, I can get to that? What did you just say about that?
If you go to the website for the club, you can get the links that I showed here.
Okay. All right.
Okay,
But if you're not a
and-
member of American Master or whatever, you can't go to get the information?
You can, one of the things I have here is to show, you can see the full video.
Oh,
And
okay.
that will describe how to do it
Okay.
directly.
Okay,
But
thank you.
we have family, my wife has family from Lynn. And what we did was we went in and looked at the town of Lynn
Mhm.
and saw where all the Catholic churches were and tried to guess which one of them was the one that they would have been at. Okay.
Okay.
So that's sort of the top thing here is you've got to find the right parish.
Okay.
Okay. Once you find the right parish, it's a wonderful database.
Thank you.
Okay.
I just unmuted. This is Pete.
Yeah.
For the Chicago listing, do you know if that covers all the counties in Illinois, or is it just Chicago County, which is Cook County, or does it cover some of the suburbs and the cities that are outside of Chicago?
My understanding is it's supposed to cover the Chicago diocese.
Oh, I see. Got it.
Okay, so if you're talking about, for example, in Boston, Lynn is part of the Boston diocese.
I
Okay, basically the Boston diocese covers all of Eastern Massachusetts.
Now
So I assume.
My relatives come from Will County, which is outside of Chicago, about 40, 50 miles. So, and they're not a part of the Archdiocese.
Well, what I would recommend is go to Family Search.
Yes.
And go put in the name of the county.
Okay.
And pull up the information like I did earlier for Richmond City in Virginia.
Okay.
And take a look at what they got.
Right. Okay, will do. Thank you.
Okay. So let's Family Search update quickly. They announced they had published their 8 billionth free searchable name. Okay, that's a lot of names. They have something like 4 million databases. Okay. So with all that in mind, one of the other things they have, which is a little fun for now, is they have a free Mayflower Descendants database. So that link will be on the website. And what you can do is find out whether one of your ancestors is in the list of authenticated genealogies tracing Mayflower descendants. Okay, so my wife has the Stebbins family, and her the ancestor who left New England was Joseph Stebbins. There's a whole story going with him. Let's see if he shows up. And the answer is not the right one. Okay. But that's the kind of information you would get. Okay. So something to think about in your information about the, that's a free database for the Mayflower descendants. Okay. All right, DNA. Those of you who know me know that I've been into the DNA world a lot. And this is my go-to, that this is link to this chart is on our website. What they have done over the years is they have asked people who have done substantial DNA to give them information about the link, the size of the centimorgan match for that DNA relative. And so if you think about it, we know mathematically roughly how many links should be between a parent and a child. This is the analysis saying, what did they find when they went looking? And the reason is because you don't ever end up with quite the same number that you think you're going to. So let's take a simple example, which would be, and by the way, the centimorgan is a figure of merit that is used to indicate a particular quantity of DNA that tends to stay together and change in a reliably predictable fashion. So if you can count how many centimorgans are the same, what that says is these are a whole bunches of DNA that haven't changed between you and the next person. So theoretically, between you and your any of your parents, it should be exactly the same number. Okay. So here they have siblings, nieces, nephews, half siblings, and half is very important in a lot of genealogy. Okay, because you have remarriages. Then you have the first cousin once removed, second cousin once removed, first cousin twice removed. Everybody sort of sees what's happening here. The number right under is the average, and it is the mean average, a median average, meaning half less, half higher of matches. And the range is the range of matches. Now, let's go take a look at my Ancestry website, Ancestry database. And we're going to look at DNA results. And we're going to look at my mother's test, because that's the one I tend to look at. All right. They have created something called through lines. And this is one of the most powerful tools, I believe, in understanding your DNA genealogy when you've been able to do it. This is pretty much limited to you've got to be a member. So you've got to, but if you are and you have put your family in there, what it does is it calls up various people, parents, grandparents. Okay, so let me look at one of my grandparents I like to look at a lot, and that's Amanda Vaughn. Amanda's really interesting to my family. And what it has here is it has all of the people in the Ancestry database who show her as an ancestor. So here is Maria Harp, who would have been a child of Sally Christian's line. Sally Christian had a son named Orville, then a couple more generations, and finally ends up at Maria's. So I've got a first cousin 3 times removed. Let's go back here. So do we have a first cousin 3 times removed? Here it is down at the bottom. And the average is supposed to be 117 with a range of 25 to 238. All right, let's go back over and look at Amanda. This is a 141. Looks pretty good to me. Knows that's pretty much what it should be. Then another child of Amanda's was Alan Christian. And there are 5 DNA matches under Alan. Okay, we have a first cousin once removed, 228, twice removed, 194, once removed, 317, and then 2 more. Okay, let's look at the 2 once removes, 317 and 228. Go back to our magic thing. I got 433. Okay. So 433, 228, and 317. 228 and 317. Yeah, those fall pretty much in that bucket. And think about questions you would have. What if this were a half relative? Okay. Well, then the numbers would be about half. But they're not. They're in this range. Suppose it was another generation in there. Then the numbers would look down here. So you can do a lot of cross-checking as to whether things make sense. We're going to go back and catch another one. To see what that does. And I want to go to Martha Mauney. Let me go to Jesse Cox first. So there are 17 people who match Jesse Cox as an ancestor, and 30 that match Martha Mauney. They're husband and wife. So why would I have 17? Why would I have 30? The answer is he died, she remarried, 1855, etc. So let's look at the 17. Okay. So there were 2 children, Sarah, who was my great-grandmother, and Nancy. Well, the story that was always told me when I was growing up was that Josephine, which was her, what she was known by, that Josephine had married someone from the West and disappeared from the family. Well, that doesn't quite turn out to be true. This person married a Mr. Harp, and when you look at the relationships here, they're in the right range. And then you look at the further relationships. Come on. Once again, they're in the right range for the, and what that tends to imply is for real that we've got, we found the correct Josephine. So she's got about the right level of relationship. Okay. So, okay. And then these are all the people who are descended from Sarah, which are all family. And if we now go back one more time, I'm going to scroll all the way down to a 4th great-grandparent. And I want to look at, not even look at it. Here is Elizabeth Hardy. I have 267 people that I match who show her in the ancestry. 236 for Margaret Faulkner. Okay, so this is a very powerful way to look at your family if you're in the DNA world. So while we're over here, I'm going to go back to the DNA line. And if you've done, I'm going to look at it's my wife's brother, which is the same as my wife. This is their current ethnicity estimate, which to me is now getting pretty good, because what it's showing is she is the, my wife is the daughter of a Polish, her mother was Polish and her father was French, French Canadian. So here they have 45% French and 5% English. If you look at the English, it actually incorporates a lot of northern France. This is the Normans. So it's quite consistent. And if you look at the Eastern Europeans, let me just look at the Baltics. You can see that we're covering Lithuania and we're going to cover Poland. These are the areas that her family comes from. Her grandfather was from Lithuania, her grandmother from Poland. So these are pretty accurate. Now, the last thing you can do with the, which you've been able to do, is you can look at immigration. So, and what they're saying is the people who have her French settler background tend to be in this area. Well, they came into Quebec and ended up in Massachusetts and Rhode Island. So that makes a lot of sense for her. And this shows when there was immigration. And there's a short description of what the immigration was like. Okay. So that's DNA. Let's go to Randy Majors now. I'm an old map junkie. And what Randy Majors has done is he's turned map analysis into fun for me. So this is just everyday normal stuff. I want to look up a zip code. How about 95409? There it goes. So I was surprised to learn that 95409 not only covers Oakmont, but actually goes over into the area that includes Rincon and Middle Rincon. That would include Oliver's and all of that. So when you look at the data for our area, it's actually driven more by the people who live in town or closer in town than we do. And there's the Kenwood zip code. Okay. You can see that 95409 actually moves it a little bit into Kenwood. So that can be fun if you're into that kind of thing. For the historical, one of the things that you do is you can do a county search. Okay. And you put in a place, and I'm going to put in Madeline, Raleigh, West Virginia. This is where my father was born, okay, which is this little funny hilly area of West Virginia without much around it. Omega was the big coal mining town nearby. But now what you can do is you can go back and look at over history. You can see what I'm doing with the upper right here, what county this was in. And the answer was, if we go way back, this would have been in Montgomery County, Virginia in 1789. Then in 1799, they began to carve out Montgomery, but it stayed in Montgomery. Then it became what was called Giles County. And then it became what was called Logan County. And then it became Wyoming County. So in 1859, if you were looking at the 1860 census, you'd be looking in Wyoming County. But in 1871, it switched to a different county, Raleigh. So this is, I often have joked that I have an ancestor who was born and died on the same farm, and in his lifetime lived in 2 states and 7 counties. And you can see that happens a lot in this country. So you can do this as a fun way of looking at things. And if you really want to, you can put the satellite view on so you can see what it looks like up close. And if I'm not incorrect, that may be the family farm there, but I have to take time to verify that. Okay, let's go back to one more thing on Randy Majors. Okay. One of the tools they have is what's called the section township range. I think if most people are familiar with it, what happened in the development of our country was that they sold land in sections. So if you want to find out where your ancestor was, often you have to figure out where he was in the section township. Okay, so what I want to do now is we're going to go to the records of the Bureau of Land Management. So this is a place you can, and this again, the link to this is on the website. You can put in information. I want to put in information about any state's fine. We're going to look for McKinney, and we're going to look for a first name of Lampkin. This is an individual in our family who's fairly famous for having made his way around the country. And they're searching for him. Okay, and so here he is. And in 1826, this was the piece of property he bought. And here's the information about it. And the key thing is you need all the information on this line down here that says, what was it he was actually buying? Okay, so let's go back over to the record here. So we have to get section and township. Wrong one. There we go. The section is 21. The township is 1 north, and the range is 14 west. So section 21, town 21 George. Township 1 north, and I said 21 west, right? Come on. There we go. And then we're in Illinois at the 2nd meridian. Okay, the meridian here is the 2nd meridian.
George, we lost your screen.
Okay, that's because I hit the wrong key. And I'm almost done.
Okay.
Let's share screen again. Thank you. So 2nd meridian. And the state was Illinois. So I put all this information in and hit go. Supposed to do this. I think I have all the information. All right, well, you saw what I was trying to do. Questions on that or any of the other things, or anybody want to share what they've been doing in research recently? Okay, well, I'll tell you what I've been doing in research recently. I did most of my primary research on my family 20 years ago. And in the intervening years, I've tended to work to go back in my family in time. So I've been looking at earlier and earlier generations. What I've been working on now is the collateral lines. So I've been looking to fill out the richness of the people who married into the family and how they fit together. That can be extremely important for understanding in this current world how other people link to you. Because with so many, as you can imagine, there are a lot of people who are getting into the DNA world who are younger, for whom I would be a grandfather. When I started this, I was working with my grandfather before he passed on. It adds a lot to the richness as I do that. In addition, there's more and more information online that I can access, particularly in newspapers, where I can really make a very healthy use of newspapers to get what happened to people in the 20th century. Okay, any other input anybody wants to share? Okay, we're not going to have a December meeting. We are going to have a January meeting, which will be the meeting I plan to have in October, which will be, for those who followed it, I had done a sequence of sessions dealing with the suffragettes, or the suffrage leaders. I don't know if I'm allowed to call them suffragettes. Sue will yell at me, probably. The suffrage leaders. And a lot of it was based on how to do research on women in the 19th century in the US. So what I'm going to do is a session totally devoted to how to do research on women in the 19th century, going back to basics. So we'll do that in January. And in the interim, may everybody have a great Thanksgiving. When I showed up at Oliver's yesterday morning, they announced that they only had large turkeys left. Okay, because everybody who came in was buying a small turkey.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am, Peggy.
I would like to, at some point, hear from other people what they're doing with their trees. Like, are they putting them on their own computer? Are they going up to GEDCOM and putting them on other platforms, and what they're doing with their DNA? I'd like to hear about all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
From other people.
Shall I send that out as an APB for everybody for next time? Anybody want to volunteer what they're doing now?
Silence.
I'm way behind in the DNA world. I'll be honest.
I just want to mention for you, Peggy, I don't know if you follow Facebook groups, but there is a organized genealogist group on Facebook that comes up with all different ways that people talk about how they organize theirs, whether it's online or not. And that might be one you'd want to join.
Yeah, I do belong to that.
Okay.
I was just curious about what people, here have done.
Well, what I do, just to share with mine, is I have on my computer, I keep a complete tree. And then I periodically download and upload it to several different sites. I do it to Ancestry. I do it to Family Search, and I also do it to the FTDNA site on the in the DNA world.
What is the software you use, George, to put it on your computer?
I use something called Family Historian. It's probably the most sophisticated of the existing softwares.
Is that still supported, George?
Yeah, Family Historian is. Family Historian is very, very, very much supported.
Okay.
Does that work on a Mac?
I believe so, although I can't, not being a Mac person, I can't guarantee it.
You remember how much it cost, George?
Nope. I haven't looked at it for several years.
All right.
But it's very robust, and I do a lot of multi-person entries, like you do with the census, where what you're doing is you're basically saying, so and so was the, George McKinney was the head of household, but here are the 7 other people who were in the household when it was recorded, and you want that record to show up on everybody's database. And so I do a lot of that entry.
Does the Family Historian have an easy link to like Family Search and some of the other sites?
I do not use that, so I actually don't know.
Oh.
What I do is I when I move the GenCom over, I do the link inside Family Search and Ancestry.
Oh, I see.
So
George, when you put your tree on Ancestry, do you make it public or private?
public.
Any risk involved there?
No, because they don't put any living people on. Okay, and you want people to find the dead people. Okay. So I find it to be very, very powerful. I also periodically will do a fake entry on a tree. I forget there's a technical term for it. I don't remember right now. But if I think there's a possible ancestor, I'll put that name on the tree, even though I don't have any verification. And then what Ancestry will do periodically will say, oh, I have found you 5 more people who happen to match that. So that's an interesting approach.
Yeah, I did a lot of research over in Germany. I visited some Catholic records there that weren't online. And so I put them into my database, put them on Ancestry, made them public. And gee, about a month later, when I go to do a search, everybody comes up and has my source information. It looks like they just downloaded everything I put up.
Well, is there any reason to object to that if they've done it correctly? Okay, it's not a question. The way I tend to look at it is like I have the family Bible. Okay, when my great-grandfather put it together, okay, you sort of feel everybody who was at least 2 generations behind him, if he put a fact in there, it was probably a pretty good fact. Okay, so it's a good Bible. I have no objection if anybody wants to take any information I put in. I will verify it's from the Bible. Okay, so I don't tend to think of genealogical information as being something that is like a written work where you have some sort of a copyright or something. You want people to share the information. You want them to get it right. But if you've had the good luck to be able to go into the church and look at the records, okay, God bless, because the rest of us haven't had that good luck and it's not online. So it's the best you can do. In an ideal world, they would know you were the one who put the information in, and they would give you credit. Not because they want to give you credit, but because they want to show the provenance of the record. Now, this is a record that came from Bill Mullert in his trip to Germany, okay, who looked at these records in the original. I'd like to have that in something. Does it bother you, Bill?
Pardon?
Does it bother you?
No, it's just that I don't know. if I'm looking at, when I do a search, I don't know when I look at sources, whether if it's really something they've done in parallel or they're just using mine. I guess I have to look to word to see if the source is edited or something, or it looks
Yeah.
different.
What I would tend to do is if you've got somebody, if you're looking for a second confirmation,
Yeah.
and somebody else has the information, you can always email them, and some of them will respond and basically say, hey, great to see you had that on there. What was your original source? And see if they have a different source. All of us have these stories, particularly from the earlier days of genealogy. I'm sure Cheryl could take us through a few of them. But in the earlier days of genealogy, it would be common that somebody would have picked up a fact that would then be repeated across hundreds of different genealogies and would be wrong. Okay. I had a great-great-grandmother who was misidentified by everybody until finally you were able to get a church record that had never been available. And it said what her maiden name was. Oh, wrong person.
And then another we're when people again, and so it's like, oh, so I think what someone took it and then realized.
Okay, somebody's talking and I cannot hear them properly. You want to repeat that? Okay, not. Okay.
George, and another question on DNA. Supposing you've hit a wall with an ancestor and you can't find the parents, how can you use DNA to hone in on it, to up against a brick wall?
Well, one of the ways I've done it, okay, is let me go back over here. I will go back to screen share. See if I get the right one here. Let's see. No, give me a second. I got so many windows open. I got to get to the right window. There we go. I really like this data. On almost any of the DNA databases, you can get the size of the connection between you and another person. And if you can begin to put that together, that narrows down who these people can be. So I have a published article I did a few years ago, many of you may remember it, where I had a great-great-grandfather whose parents were misidentified. And because I had a very nice DNA connection with another person, we finally were able to figure out that person was the correct father for that particular individual. But then it became complex because it turned out that child was an illegitimate child of a teenage daughter of the couple that originally had been identified as his parents. So what happened was he became the youngest child of his grandparents, okay, in all of the permanent records. So what we did, we began looking at relationships. And so we had 3 daughters who could have been the ones who were his mother. But if you look at it, take a look at let's take it a third cousin, second cousin, once removed, twice removed, 3 times removed. So for 2 of the daughters, you'd be looking at a second cousin. For one of the daughters, you'd be looking at a first cousin. Do you see the difference?
Yeah.
122 versus 433. There's no question that if you suddenly show up with all the descendants of one of these kids, okay, look like a 122, and of one of the 3 kids is a 433, you've got the mother. Okay. And so what you can do is you've been to narrow it down by looking at these kind of relationships. And if you have the ability to find anybody else who's descended from the same line, it suddenly becomes much richer. So the answer is, yeah, you can do a lot of identification.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Well, thanks all and have a great Thanksgiving, and we'll see you in the new year.
Thank you, George. Same to you.
Thank you and happy Thanksgiving and safe holidays. Let's hope 2021.
Amen.
I want to know
A little
how
bit
how does George find the time to be involved with 18 different things? That's what I don't understand.
It's just finer and finer cuts of the slices of the dial. Okay, bye all.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, George. Bye.